The loyalty, courage and mateship displayed by the Anzac soldiers during World War I has improved the nation and its future forever. It is not only represented across Australia on Anzac Day today, but the qualities that the Anzacs possess will continue to be recognised and will show in every Australian generation for the future. Who were the Anzacs and how did they shape our nation? And what was it like for the Anzacs during World War I? These questions are reflected through the discovery of the Anzac tradition and the symbols, quotes and attributes it exhibits. The Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, known today as the Anzacs, have shaped our nation greatly. They fought in World War I to protect our nation, help establish countries' reputations, and to support others. Becoming an Anzac soldier was soon to become a hero to your own nation in years to come. The Anzacs possessed qualities of strength and bravery when faced with adversity. The many other qualities that the Anzacs did possess were also needed, as the strong adversities at war were horrendous. The Anzacs are very deserving of commemoration, and Anzac Day was created for this purpose. The Anzac tradition recognises Anzac Day as an occasion for national remembrance, which include commemorative services and ceremonies, usually held at war memorials around the world. The Anzac tradition is celebrated and commemorated on the 25th of April by Australians, as Australians reflect on the many meanings of war and the loyalty, courage and pride of those who fought for our country. The causes of World War I could be summed up in 3 words: fear, hunger, and pride. When the 5 great European powers formed 2 opposing alliances and the Triple Entente was formed, including Britain, war began to break out. Before the Anzacs even existed, the Australian loyalty and pride was shown when the Australian Prime Minister, Joseph Cook, announced that Australia was to support their allies of Great Britain. If the old country is at war, so are we. The 25th of April marks the anniversary of the first major military action fought by the Anzac soldiers during the First World War. Many Australian men were enthusiastic about supporting their allies, and that reflects the Anzac spirit. The living conditions were just one of the major adversities for the Anzacs during World War I. Unlike some other war zones, Anzac troops were unable to buy food from local suppliers or scrounge food from the countryside. Daily food and supplies were at a minimum, and the catastrophe of rat and lice infestation contributed greatly to the rough living conditions. Of the first 32,000 soldiers, only 7,000 would return. But despite the hardships and the family they deeply missed, by 1918 the Allied powers began to turn the tide on the Central Powers, and the Anzacs and their allies deservingly won the war. The Anzac tradition is still highly important. The Anzac tradition has taught and displayed to Australians many important values. The Anzacs have taught Australians courage displayed by being involved in the Battle of Lone Pine. Mateship, highlighting the story of Simpson and his donkey. Values of compassion, when both sides of the war agreed to lay down their arms for a day in order to bury their dead. And most importantly, they have showed us the quality of sacrifice for their people and their country. The sacrifice that saw almost 900 Australians find their resting place today on Turkish soil. Courage, sacrifice, mateship and compassion are the bonds of our common humanity. And that is why people celebrate Anzac Day today. Symbols, quotes and many attributes are used to reflect and commemorate the Anzac soldiers and the Anzac tradition. The last post is one of the number of bugle calls in military tradition that mark the phases of the day. In World War I, it signified the end of a day's work and also sounded at the end of World War I. The last post is very significant to the Anzac tradition and is sounded at commemorative services such as Anzac Day and Remembrance Day to loyalty of the Anzacs. The Anzac biscuit was part of the rations given to the Anzac soldiers during World War I. They were included instead of bread because they had a much longer shelf life, while still retain high nutritional value. The Anzac biscuit is now baked and eaten by many on Anzac Day as it reflects and commemorates the Anzacs. The Anzac poppy has been part of Remembrance Day for many years. This is significant for the Anzac soldiers because during the war, the red poppies were among the first plants to grow on the devastating battlefields in northern France and Belgium, and in particular what was named Flanders Fields. The poppy is so significant that a poem was written about it, and a short excerpt from it reflects the loyalty, courage, and pride shown by the Anzac soldiers. The torch be yours, to hold it high. This excerpt from the poem in Flanders Fields represents the pride and holding themselves high while representing their country in times of war. The rising sun symbol on the Anzac badge is proudly worn by Anzac soldiers and can be readily identified with the Anzac spirit. There is no doubt that the Anzacs have impacted and contributed to many countries and nations today, particularly Australia. The courage, loyalty and mateship displayed by the Anzacs during World War I have shaped our nation to become stronger than ever before. They shall be remembered for the future. Once a soldier, always a soldier, lest we forget.